Okay, hello, hello, hello to everybody who is listening to us right now. If you're tuning in, welcome to the Melanin and Moonlight podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyrell Collins.
And I'm the other, Vernon Scott. And how are you doing? How are you doing, Tyrell?
Oh, I am doing good. Yeah, spring, with all this pollen and stuff that's going on, we talked about this last time. It seems like it's wanting to settle just a little bit like this
Mhm.
week. So I'm hoping that it's taking heed and taking word because, it's been something, with the
Mm.
change of this season. And it's been a very beautiful week.
It has been. I've been enjoying everything. I've actually been a lot more active this week as well.
Mm,
So that's been great, and I'm looking forward to this upcoming week as well. Getting myself back in the gym and things, getting
mm,
back to my old routine before I moved.
mm,
So I'm looking forward to that. And
yeah.
actually recently got my little desk. Still trying to get things. Well, I'm still doing things for the move, but with the way this
Mm,
government is set up and not knowing what
yeah,
prices are going to be, I was like, let me go
yeah,
ahead and get this desk today. It's already
yeah.
expensive. I'm not going to do that to myself. No,
And
Lord.
I'm so glad that I'm already kind of like a minimalist anyway. So it's like in case I need to stay packed up, like
Right.
let me just take precautions.
Like, I'm just thinking about half the things in my storage unit that I could just start getting
Mhm.
rid of because, again, I'm not necessarily using the things, and it's been a year and a
Mm,
half, and I really haven't needed most of the stuff that's in there. So it's like, do I
yeah,
need it? But I do
that
miss
could be
my
hard.
bed.
And that could just be hard to do, like, because even though it's like things that you don't need, but it's like it's still mine. Like,
Exactly, exactly. So I know I'm donating some of my books whenever I do officially move. I actually, since I have my desk, I decided let me go ahead and take out the typical podcast stuff, which I learned my
mm,
camera, my webcam has a shortage in it, and it's probably because I haven't used it in like a year and a half. So now I have to get another one of those. And, I'm
mhm.
not going to, go down the little hill of why do I have to keep spending money? I'm going to make it work.
Mm.
Shout out to China by letting everybody know where you get the discount for
Yeah,
real.
right.
Because
Look, they
TikTok has
like,
been
listen. They're
real.
like, listen. We'll throw y'all a bone a little bit, like a
Listen,
little bit of a
they
handout.
were like, "Oh, is you struggling over there? Here's the things that you can get, bitch. Like, come here,
Hmm.
spend your money here directly." And then, of course, we still have to pay whatever it is to get it shipped over to here. But
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're gonna have to be drawing up like clauses to stuff. Be like, listen, we're not affiliated with yours truly. Like, we have no connection. We don't really know what it is. We really don't know what is
listen,
happening.
I was just born there.
Exactly. Like, please don't. Let's not punish the people for the sin of yours truly. Like,
Oh
let's
God,
not do that.
ain't it crazy? But anyways, what are some of what's on your radar from this past week?
Ooh, just so much is just is it's happening. So I mean, I think major thing that is happening, of course, is the whole Donnie McClurkin, kind of situation that's going on. I know that, we both have a lot of thoughts, on it. So I figure that's maybe a good place to start tonight.
Oh God, I'm gonna let you get yourself your part out first because I have a whole book of things that I have to touch base on.
Mm,
I know well for those who have not seen the video or only have like a cursory exposure to it. Like I saw a clip of it when I was watching T.S. Madison and Craig's Fact Talk, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what Donnie McClurkin is talking about. And I listened to the little snippet that they had, and I was like, you know what? I need the full context here. Granted, they shared enough on there for me to get a general context of what he was talking about.
mm,
But I did want to hear his full testimony, and it was painful for me to listen to in
mm,
terms of I feel very bad for him. And of course, I'll get into that in a little bit, but it's essentially Donnie McClurkin talking about his history, his past, dealing with struggles of his own homosexuality and him finding the light and um, um, leaning more toward within his faith and turning his back on that side of himself and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I know one of the um, broader themes that I took away from it is just the perpetuation of homophobia, or even just the um, not just the perpetuation of homophobia, but just the way that, um, especially in the Black community, of course, this does exist outside of us, but just that idea of homosexuality being something that needs to be cured and
Hmm.
whatnot. So, yeah, I'll at least start there before I even go into all that I have to talk about the
Yeah.
about Donnie.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, it's great. And so what I believed in what he was sharing, I just could not but help but think about always when these type of situations happen, like the hypocrisy of it,
Hmm.
like the hypocrisy of like the message, because like, stating that, he once engaged in, relations with men, but now considers those actions to be part of like past life before, this whole aspect of being delivered, by God. I mean, this is not anything new. We've seen things like this happen before. And
Hmm.
so it's describing, same-sex attraction or desire as a struggle or, a curse, and in doing so, he reinforces the very perpetual and harmful beliefs that queerness in itself is something to overcome rather than embrace.
Hmm.
And the problems that I've always had with messages like this within inside the church, or with inside, religious aspects, is that at the end of the day, you can believe or not believe whatever it is that you want to, but when you are spewing hate via the nature of hypocrisy, it's like you're doubling down on it's like you're just doubling down on the nature of like this very volatile message. So framing uh framing the demonization of like queer identity, especially in Black religious spaces where we've always had tension between faith and sexuality,
Hmm.
is already volatile in the first place. Now you're just adding to that harm. So you're aligning yourself with the theology that, of course, that shame should be associated with LGBTQ plus people, while
Hmm.
still drawing from the this kind of cultural cachet and community that shaped your early life to begin with. So I don't know. It's just something about the nature of he gets to tell a testimony of deliverance, for this religious admiration, right? And mainstream acceptance, because of course we know that, of course, churches now, with social media come into the mainstream, because you want to be seen as like, I don't know, revered, obviously in conservative Christian spaces. But
Hmm.
meanwhile, you have like openly queer gospel artists or, worship leaders who often, of course, still face the same kind of career, stagnation or silencing, or, whatever it is that you want to associate with it. So in a lot of ways, it's this weaponizing of the doctrine, right? So it's to say a lot of his statements sound like internalized shame, which for him it
Hmm.
is, made into theology. And the real struggle is that rather than sitting with, you know, actually sitting with the statements that he said, he like a lot of other people in the past, you turn it into a war against queerness rather than trying to say to kind of build a bridge of empathy and freedom. Like,
Mhm.
if you engaged in same-sex attraction or engaged in, relations, and say either if you liked it or didn't like it, that's really not for people to even know. That's not really any of their business. But if you are a so-called person of the cloth and you're trying to preach a good word and spread humanity, good humanity out in the world, then that humanity has to be grounded in empathy. It has to be grounded in freedom, and that involves the nature of sexuality. I know a lot of people won't agree with that, because we have a lot of people who follow, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever it is that you want to, associate. But I don't know. It just seems, as I was listening to the nature of, what he put out, I was just having this thing about like this is just like just sheer hypocrisy for me.
Mhm.
So that's where I kind of like stand on it. And like I say, it's not anything unique, but what makes it dangerous is that he also has influence.
Mhm.
And his narrative continues to legitimize theology that harms especially black queer youth.
Yeah.
And that's why we have so many black boys who are and just queer people in general. I'm not just going to stick without the boys, but we have so many black queer people, black queer youth in general, who get raised in very strict Christian households where it's either this message or this message, and there is no in between. There is no talk. There is no coming. There is no bridge. You
Mhm.
so yeah, I just listening to him, I was just like yeah, the hypocrisy, the hypocrisy and the audacity. That's been our word for 2025. The audacity, the audacity.
And listening to on some level, I kind of wish I didn't even listen to the full speech,
Mhm,
because it was kind of one of those impacts that I had when I think about like artists and entertainers that I looked up to. Tyler Perry
mhm,
happened to be one of those as well. But not necessarily looking up to them as this person's the savior, this person could do all
mhm.
cannot do wrong, but
Right.
just the strength of the body of work that they put out. And now I only say this towards Tyler Perry, please. I need that caveat to be understood, because the plays were immaculate. Now, but Donnie McClurkin, his songs go to my early childhood,
Mhm,
and he's one of my favorite gospel singers.
yeah.
Like I have multiples of his songs on playlists. We Fall Down, sing that to this day. Speak to My Heart is my one of my. If I had to do a tier rating for all of my favorite songs or whatnot, that is S class. It's all the way up
Mhm,
there. It will be top five because you play that song, I am singing it. It's a visceral reaction when I hear that song. That's how much I enjoy it, and just hearing him talk, actually just learning about him being having a homosexual past, let me put it that way, was humanizing in a way. And it was like, oh, it's kind of, it reminded me of when I learned that Langston Hughes, and I was like in sixth
mhm,
grade with this, Langston Hughes was bisexual. I was like, oh, this is a thing, this is something that exists, right? And it was like, this is a person that I looked up to, like their writing and all that, and this is something that I share with this person. And learning about Donnie McClurkin just was another one of those moments of me recognizing, oh, there's a similarity, though it's not same sexuality, but we still have this queer umbrella that we get to share together.
mhm,
And hearing this speech is more so of hearing him just throwing that away and just making it seem as though that is a problem, right? And rather than him just finding acceptance in who he is. And I'm not going to say he's not heterosexual, because you can be heterosexual, and
mhm.
because he mentioned something about traumatic experience, and I'll get a little bit into that later, which can skew a person's views on sexuality, but
Yeah,
that does not necessarily that is always the case.
exactly.
So this is me just giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Mhm,
But to hear him shaming younger people who are living in their truth and feeling that
Mm,
this is their reality, it just hurt. Like
mm,
I'm hoping that within the testimony getting a word, because you get the little nuggets, but all I heard was his pain, and it had me actually emotional listening to
mm.
him. And it's not because he was touching me to the heart, not at
No,
all. It was
yeah,
because I
it's
felt
pain in a different
so,
kind of, yeah.
yeah, I felt bad for him. It felt like you can hear it in his voice of how much he is hurting,
Mm,
trying to make this reality mean reign true for him.
hmm
It sounded like him projecting what he want for himself to be real so he can walk into that
mm,
and separate himself from an image of himself that he knows is true.
exactly.
And that's just, it was just hurtful to hear.
Yeah, and that's the part I think that I have the problem with because, obviously we live in a time and we live in a place where, where we talk about queerness and it's just supposed to be celebrated and people supposed to be free and, doing all this type stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but not everybody feels like that. So, you
Hmm.
have a lot of people out there who do struggle with how they feel like they're supposed to be and who they actually are. And it's also why when I get on, because for anybody that doesn't know, I usually tend to get on a soapbox about when we're always encouraging queer youth to all like to come out. I've always had this aspect of I don't believe in the nature of necessarily coming out the closet. Like I do believe, of course, there's a proverbial closet that of course, we all come out of. But I've always loved the language of inviting people in to the aspects of your life that you would like for them to be a part of and to see, and the amplification that we give to queer youth about yeah, living your truth, do this and do that. That's all well and good to say when you're not living under your parents or your guardian's roof at 14, 15 years old, when
Hmm.
you are banking on them for the nature of your survival. Now, I'm not saying that, you need to completely just deny who it is that who it is that you are, but move in a way that also protects you so that you don't have to be somebody that is living on the street or things like that. Again, we all have our chosen family, we all have our chosen paths, but getting back to our topic though, it's kind of like I kind of felt like that in the moment with listening to him. It's like, yeah, the shame he feels, that's real. So it really wasn't the fact that he was talking from a place of shame, because obviously if that's how he felt, that's how he felt. It was the how you said earlier, it was the nature of the projection that you had to make now other people feel shameful. It would be one thing to say, yeah, as I was going through these experiences, I felt shameful in those times. I felt like what I was doing, what I was doing was wrong. However, my story is not everyone's. Frame it in a way that speaks from the position of I, not to say, oh, I felt shame. And I'm not saying these were his exact words, of course, but it's like not framing it as, oh, like I felt shameful because I did this and things like that. And because this is a part of this is part of Bible and this is part of the sin. Now this is a shame, this is innately a shameful act in itself. Like don't do that. Don't do
Exactly. And then just the perpetuation of the lies
that.
of,
Mm-hmm.
like, one of the things, because usually whenever I watch media, I'm not really taking notes or anything like that. But this situation, I brought
Mm-hmm.
out the notepad because it was, again,
Y'all know when Vernon brings out the notepad, it's serious.
it's if it wasn't for how much this man meant to me, I would not have gone into, like, if Anita Baker came out of next week, and y'all excuse my language, I'm part of the queer community, I'm going to use the word. If Anita Baker came out of next week and was like, I don't trust any of these fags out here, I will feel some type of way. And I will, let's go, come into the room, Auntie. Let me go ahead and invite you here so we can talk about how you messing up right now. Um,
Mhm.
this is what's going on with me in this situation with Donnie. We're going to bring out all of it because it's it means a lot.
Mhm.
But for him to go into the space of oh, sorry, that's not, I'm going into that. One of the things that I wrote down was the harm of confirmation bias. right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
when I heard him giving his testimony and talking about his experience and um elevating that to be an umbrella for other people. He was using a lot of the tropes that are just lies. How he's talking about a lot of this is due to absent fathers, fathers not being in the home and not being there. And on some aspect, I'm like, if this rings true for you, Donnie, let that be true. Let that be your story. Don't let this be the story for everybody else who's in these experiences. I have a
Mm,
father, two actually. I have a stepfather as well.
mm,
And I'm grateful that I've had both in my life, not in the degree we can talk about that some other time. But like when it comes to my biological father, he was not in the home, but he did not ever show me a moment where he did not love me, and I'm still queer. And it's not because he was there or what he was not absent. It was just innately my sexuality, right? Sexuality is something that's just innate, it's natural, right? And to put it on, not to say there's not a problem with absentee fatherism, whatever. That's goes beyond just the black community, just to be real. But that's not the reason why people are queer. Let's not spread that. And with people in these spaces being hearing this in popular media of blaming absent fathers for queerness, blaming sexual assault for the presence of queerness in our community, men wearing dresses being a contributing factor for queerness in our community. All of these are not based in facts. When people are attached to that narrative and they build that for themselves and they hear it from somebody of power, that just solidifies that confirmation bias for them. And now people thinking, especially those who came down to the altar to be anointed and what have you, um, some of them may have thought or began to think, oh, am I gay because my father wasn't here? Am I
mm,
gay because I've been losing out on this? These are young people who are still trying to figure out their lives, figure out how their traumas truly impacted them to this day, right? And now we're just going to have this blanket statement for them to think that this is the reason. You're going to have an entire congregation outside of the young people thinking that this is the reason that they're here because they ain't have a father in the home, because they've been assaulted, because
mm,
whatever, because men are deciding to wear dresses, because we see queerness on TV. Absolutely not, good sir. We're not doing that.
mm. Yeah.
That's not how this works.
No. No. Yeah. It's just, it's so sad. And I think what ultimately happens in situations like this is that, like I say, acknowledging that, his story is not everyone's.
Mhm.
And that, many LGBTQ plus Christians or whatever faith that, you want to associate live joyfully and authentically in their faith, you know. And even if it's not his experience, just acknowledging that. And I just what boggles my mind so much is about, no matter what field of work that you're in, when you have a platform, you have a responsibility for that platform.
Mhm.
And for Donnie McClurkin, like, of course, like here, like you say, and it's one of those things where, yeah, when I was listening to it, I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't like sentimental in the fact, like, like I want to cry because of this necessarily, but it was deeply emotional, but not in the, I don't know, like emotional kind of way. Not even finding my words here, but it was to say like a big part of me feels for him. A big part of me feels for him. And I think the only thing that I had the problem with is just the way that the message was sent out and came across. Because to me, he needed to use his platform to protect rather than
Pathology,
pathologize. Yeah.
pathologizing. Yeah.
Yeah, pathologize, essentially queer youth who look to him for guidance. It's
Hmm.
kind of like in your aspect of trying to reveal your truth, you just completely desensitized and put into a box those people who look to you who also may be struggling. So now what happens with them?
Hmm. And I
Mhm.
think the thing that really touched me because of just similarity in terms of abuse is that he mentioned that he was sexually assaulted at age 2. Same here. So
Mhm.
when he mentioned that, I was like, this is some real stuff right
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's in therapy or anything of that nature. I hope he is. But that in itself has large impacts on a person's lived experience for years, and how he further talking about how people were not there for little Donnie,
Mhm.
how they're so willing to praise him for everything that he's doing good. He sounds great. He knows music. He can play the piano. But
Mhm.
who's checking after little Donnie? And hearing that in itself really touched the heart. And I was like, I want to hear that. I want to know that story. I want to, of course, I can't ask him for that because it is his story, but I would have preferred for that testimony to talk about his healing
Mhm.
process of getting over that, instead of the demonization of people who did not abuse him,
Yeah.
right? The community of people who will be there for him to love on him because they either experienced something similar or know somebody who's experienced something similar, or those who just, you know, want him to be happy, right? Rather than tear himself down every single day. Someone to let him know that this was never your fault, that this was not something that you asked for. This is not something that was okay to have happened to you. A community that will really be there to support him. And when he went on and on about we failed, that's the moment when I was ready to like shout my hand and say amen, because he talked about how people failed him, and I don't think he recognized in that moment that he was speaking to a crowd of people who failed that little Donnie,
Mhm.
rather than saying that because we failed as a community, queerness existed. Our
Mhm.
queerness exists today in the form of where people can feel more free, because that's not the failure. The failure is those people who turned their backs on you as a child. The failure is the community that did not cover you and protect you. The failure is every single person who did not hold little Donnie the way that he needed to be held and tell him that you are okay and you are safe.
Mhm.
That is the failure. And yes, as a community, we fail queer people, we fail our children, we fail black women, and we fail black men every single day. And we can talk about those things with nuance when it's needed. But in this moment, that's not the failure here. The failure is what happened to you, and nobody came to support, nobody came to protect. The failure is having this rhetoric that says that queerness is just automatically bad, that it's automatically sinful. It's telling young queer people that they deserve to hate themselves just for
Mhm.
being what God made them to be. That is the failure. That is the failure that continues to be perpetuated in these church spaces.
Mhm.
And until we're able to address that, because Donnie, let's be real. If you happen to be gay, the failure is every single person who's judged you for just living in your truth
Mhm.
versus the ones who accepted you for living in a lie.
Exactly.
That's the failure.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, I felt that, his story and him sharing, could have been a bridge, but
Mhm.
instead it's been used as it classically is. It's a weapon.
Mhm.
And in a time where especially like Black queer lives are under attack through legislation, through theology, always uh in the center of it is cultural shame. To me, it's like we don't need more ex-gay testimonies.
Mhm.
We need stories that, really, like you say, can talk about the healing, can talk about, even if it's not necessarily acceptance, because obviously not everybody has gotten to a place of acceptance, but even if it's just talking about what it's like to work through or trying to get to a place of acceptance,
Mhm.
that kind of truth telling, I think makes space for, a wholeness to kind of come about. Because, of course, queerness is not the opposite of holiness, right? It's
Mhm.
sacred too. Queerness is sacred too, so, so I just, yeah, it's just, yeah, I just hope for something better to happen in the future. But yeah, this was
Mhm.
definitely a hard one to look at
Yeah.
and to swallow.
Now I have about two more points before I'm off of Donnie for at least the next couple of days. But one of the things is because he mentioned being broken. And queer people are not broken.
Mm,
We are who God wanted us to be, and that's whatever God that you
mm,
serve, whoever the universe wanted us to be, it does not matter. You are perfect the way that you are. The
mhm,
brokenness comes from the trauma, and I need
right,
for us to recognize that and communicate those things effectively. We're not broken
right,
because we happen to love people a certain way. We
mm,
are broken because society beats us down.
mhm,
We are broken because we've experienced certain things that harm us.
mhm,
That's where that brokenness comes from. And I hope for any person who's out there who may hear this message and may have even resonated with Donnie McClurkin's words, here's this important part is that you are not the broken piece.
mhm,
Right? There may have been things that broke you. There may be cracks in your foundation, but that does not mean that you are not something worthy of love. That does not mean that you're not something that, a being that is worthy of being happy, find pleasure in life, be human, which means
mhm.
falling into lust every now and again.
Yes,
But you are worthy of being healed, and
yeah,
that healing does not come with or does not require you to hate yourself.
mhm,
Um, and the last thing I want to talk about is that straight bullet that he hit Katy Perry with, because I wasn't ready for that. I actually took a pause to laugh a little bit in all of what he was talking about because he was like, he
mhm.
said her name by he just he was like, oh, it's not just the boys, it's our girls too. Katy Perry and that song, I kissed a girl and I like it. I was like, wait, what did Katy Perry? Why are we going coming for her
Well,
like that?
Donnie, why you name dropping over here? Like,
Katy Perry over here trying to get her ass into space and you bring her into your testimony.
exactly. Mm.
That was just a nice little laugh. Because I literally I was not expecting that. He could have used anybody. He could have been like Queen Latifah was a lesbian and set it off like then I would have been on here talking about, so why did Queen Latifah have to take a stray? Ain't nobody else took a
Mm,
stray. We having these broad comments, but we're gonna deliver this one today for the women.
exactly. Exactly. I cannot.
Okay. Yeah. It sucks, but I'm probably still gonna play his music because like I said,
No, I mean,
this
that's
is
good. You
him.
can separate the man from the, from the music. You can still
Yeah.
enjoy the music.
Yeah, and this is him on his journey, even though it may be linked to self-hatred, and that's very unfortunate for him. But it's not as though he did anything that is outside of the norm of the black church or any other church.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's not. I'm not really a cancel person, but I do believe in having integrity. But at least I know. well, from what I heard, a lot of this is just that self-hatred because it's sad.
Yeah.
And I know there's many singer, songwriter, in the gospel realm, pastors who are dealing with their own internalized homophobia and their own self-hatred.
Hmm.
And I hope they do get to a place where they can love themselves, if not in this life or in the next one,
Hmm.
because they do deserve it,
Yeah.
like we all do.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't want to embrace it on this side, hey. And again, like I said, this is not to say that he is because I don't know that man like that. But it's definitely giving
Yeah.
based off of the statistics of the queer community.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Mm,
But yeah. So as we talk about something that also is an upheaval, one of the things that has not been going over so well is this whole pop the balloon aspect on Netflix that has transferred over into Netflix. Child, I cannot with I can I just can't. Look, when we talked about it last time, we y'all forgive us. We try to be optimists, and we try to, if we speak it, we come from that aspect of we if we speak something into existence, maybe it will be. This right here ain't it. Like
right.
our speaking wasn't heard. So if you are tuning in to Netflix's adaptation of the viral YouTube dating series Pop the Balloon, you will, have read or seen that, it's facing a lot of like backlash, even just based off of its like live premiere. Um, Pretty much fans and critics have like expressed like a overwhelmingly like disappointment,
Mm,
pointing out, a lot of several, kind of claims with the show. One of the things that people have the hardest time about is that it feels like it's lost its authenticity and really like original charm, right? So we know the original Pop the Balloon YouTube, dating series, created by, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing their names right, Arlette Amule. And I use the acronym, like the abbreviation BM, because I don't know the correct name pronunciation, but BM Matunde.
okay.
They gained, of course, very widespread recognition for delivering the type of content that they do. However, the Netflix version has been really criticized by fans, especially, and critics, I will say, just based off of its formula. So they've included like reality TV personalities, like for instance, like Johnny Bananas. Like I watched Johnny Bananas on The Challenge, and I know that he's like ventured into other reality spaces that I can't stand him in. Um, and then other people like I'm not quite familiar with Chase Dumore, but I know that that person is on there. And so a lot of people feel like the show has moved towards like sensationalism
Mm,
rather than really genuine connections. But then I'm like, well, the show really, really wasn't about genuine connections anyway. Like it was about vanity. So like, let's not do that. But but at least with the original YouTube show, you were getting a aspect of authenticity though, because
mhm,
like seeing the vainness of people, seeing like like the question, like like the vanity of the questions that get asked and stuff, at least even though you knew it was being filmed, there's kind of like that reality in reality television that people say. And so I don't know, it's just it's and then another thing people bring up is like the live format challenges, right? So the decision to broadcast the show live, you know, it's been like said like it's chaotic, you know. They have a lot of instances where you got a lot of contestants like talking over each other, making inappropriate remarks. Johnny Bananas, who has been known to have made past remarks regarding black women, did it I think it kind of inadvertently when he was on making some sort of comment about some woman's I think the question was about let me see, Yvonne Orji, who hosts the show. She asked like if any of the women like on stage was like his type. And so he got on this segment about like let's start with like toes or something like that. So he began like inspecting like the women's feet or whatever, and saying like oh like some of the women like had pretty toes or whatever. Now, mind you, if you into feet, no shame here. But when he got into the aspect of looking at one woman's feet, he said something like you look like you sleep from a tree upside down or something like that. And it's like what? Like,
Oh.
and so, and even Yvonne, like, she didn't like address it in the moment, but like, of course, like that solicited, like, behind the scenes backlash. And then like he was also facing backlash from his time on Big Brother with like some emojis that he had posted, referencing like gorilla like stuff. And so he's come out and say that he's thinking about suing like his man, like his marketing agency who's been handling like his social media and all that. Anyway, that's all, here or there. But the whole main point is that having these realities TV stars to be a part of the show has taken away the everyday people that
Hmm.
was a part of the regular YouTube series. So, it's just very, people's reactions have been like I have not gotten past like the first episode cuz it's like people are just like I can't deal. Like the show in itself was always about vanity and, just kind of all this. So you already know what you were kind of getting like with most reality television, but it seems like Netflix like they have done like a real pivot
Hmm.
like with this show to the fact that it's like, damn, I don't even want to watch past like the first episode.
I'm not even I'm not even shocked. Now, just for the record, people, I have not seen that one episode. I did see the trailer, and I'm not going to tell you whether or not it's good or not. Okay, you make your those decisions yourself. And I'm a firm believer if you haven't even given the show a try, you don't even have the right to say whether something's good or not. Now, what I will say is that from what I've been hearing, I'm not surprised
Exactly.
because like you mentioned, there's that authenticity that came along with it being on YouTube. It's using regular people. And even when I heard that there was going to be a focus on, I guess, celebrity or um let's say higher bracket individuals coming onto the show,
Mm-hmm.
my immediate thought was, oh, this is going to be kind of like a little mainstream thing. And whenever I think mainstream, my immediate thought is we're going to forgo the thing that makes anything black or anything cultured,
Yes.
right? And when I say cultured, I mean that beyond just black people. I mean that in the terms of what the cost is to be white in this country, because whiteness has a cost, and that is removing your culture,
Yeah.
be it South Asian, be it Irish, be it Dutch, all those things. And yeah, whenever even though I love Yvonne, I did not necessarily think that um, it was going to is a dynamic choice of having her here because of the premise of the show. I just
Mm-hmm.
saw her as being a potential comedy relief, a
Mm-hmm.
chuckle here and there because she is funny.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I just felt as though it was just going to be a show that slowly lost its pizzazz because it's no longer connecting with the group or the crowds that made it popular.
Yeah.
Is removing itself from that, and it's also removing the regular people that really made create the space. Because
Yeah.
when you get celebrity, we have people who need to present themselves a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
because this is their careers on the line, or you have people who are so far removed. that a lot of their, even when they're genuinely searching for love, that it just seems very superficial, and it's hard to connect with
Mhm.
superficialness in that realm of things, which is
Yeah.
why the shows like um I don't want to just say flavor of love, but the dating shows that have been coming out recently, yeah, they have a great audience of people who watch it, but they only watch it when the drama comes into it,
Mhm.
because that drama is the thing that drives the show,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
not the aspect of them actually having a possibility of finding love.
Mhm.
In the Pop the Balloon on YouTube, there's a sense that it is possible,
Mhm.
right? When it's even if it's Love is Blind. Okay, I have a firm belief that this relationship is going to fall. Let me see
Mhm.
how that happens. Let me see
Mhm.
how this
Yeah.
fails. So your buy-in is seeing the destruction of this, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a hope-based mentality that something may transpire. We know that these people are superficial in a way. We know these people are here for vanity's sake, and they're looking for partners for vanity's sake, but they might find that partner,
Exactly.
right?
And that's the thing, like what Netflix has done with the adaptation of it is that you've essentially done with like what like a lot of reality shows have done. It's just like when you're casting for any type of show, you
Hmm.
have to do casting based off of certain archetypes of characters. When you cast somebody like Johnny Bananas, you know that he's going to be chaotic because that's the nature of how his story is always, no matter
Hmm.
what show he's on. So you're innately going to have drama and mess with following him. So it's like, everybody fits into like their own archetype of a story. When you are watching your Love is Blind or Married at First Sight or Too Hot to Handle or just all these type of, shows, you are going to have people again who fit those certain archetypes. You know that they're going to drive drama in particular ways. That's the reason why you have people. And again, that's how we go into like typecasting when it comes to these shows and things like that. You're gonna get your beautifully, like model-esque, women, or like the women that are convention what you call conventionally pretty. You're gonna get the men who look conventionally handsome, or things like that. And so again, it's to drive this narrative that that can obviously bring in viewership, but you're not doing your fan base any service. And what I've never understood about, just reality shows in general, despite the fact that I do watch, especially like the love center ones, I always tune in because I always feel like there's always something I can learn from it. I don't watch them all, but I feel like if it's something like, a Love is Blind or Married at First Sight or like one of the new ones that comes on OWN. I like the first season. I am not liking the second season of it. The Never Ever Mets. Ready to Love and things like that. I always feel like even despite the drama and the mess, there's always things that you can learn from watching people interact in these situations. Like, oh, yeah, that's actually a red flag that comes up. I actually have never thought about having that kind of conversation with somebody I'm dating. Like, maybe that's something I need to take heed of. And so innately, the shows, like, they still teach you something.
Hmm.
But when you take a show that has a premise that was already kind of centered in vanity, but we kind of honed it in with Black culture and was, I don't know, getting into a aspect of like, yeah, we kind of know that this is vanity, but there's also a sense of intimacy, humor along with it.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like when you take that and now you move it to a platform like Netflix that wants to like broaden its horizons and stuff like that, you're not doing it in the right ways. It's not like you're saying, "Oh, we're going to take this concept and now we're going to intentionally cast queer or larger body people or disabled contestants or trans contestants so that way people are not seeing themselves as tokens but as full leads." It's not like you're doing that pushes a positive message. You're completely sensationalizing what an
Hmm.
already rocky show was to begin with. But it was something that we kind of mess with. I kind of think of like Pop the Balloon as kind of like how we thought about like verses. during COVID, when it came out. Like, despite all the mess that, was happening with verses and stuff, we rocked with it.
Hmm.
It was something entertaining. It was something that, we tuned in for because we were dealing with the pandemic and just all of these things. And then the moment Swizz and, what's his name? I can't remember his name right now. Um, they wanted to like market it and actually have it to be like, oh, like legit.
Hmm. Changing stuff up. Oh,
Changing stuff. It's
now we
like,
got
yeah, people ain't
capitalism
rocking with it anymore.
involved.
It's kind of like people ain't rocking with it anymore. And then now you have it where like with award shows, what's his name? Not DJ Envy. Um, DJ Cassidy, DJ Cassidy, how he does like the pass the mics now, after like the great like award shows and stuff like that. People love tuning into that because they love just that authenticity. When you try to like brand something now, it's like now it stops being for us. And it's such a shame that that has
Hmm.
to happen, but it is what it
Oh, okay. There's two tangents now.
is.
As soon as you said branding things, it immediately brought me to the conversation about the Hillman talk
Mm,
and the drama that was going on over there because Hillman talk was an accident,
mm,
right? It was a professor. Dang, I forget her name. I was in her class. But she came on here. First thing people see, you're in class now. We just like, what's going on here? And as that community grew, other content creators took part of that, wanting to educate people on the things that they're knowledgeable on.
mhm,
We get to a point where people who were not here from the beginning, people
mhm,
who are not the person who really sparked this movement of Black educators educating the Black community and other
mhm,
communities, where they are now making this. Now we have an official website, which was cool here so we can find the coursework, support these
mhm,
content creators and all that. But now we're at a place where we're looking at actual branding Hillman Talk as a thing.
mhm,
And doing that, remove the aspect of community, right?
mhm. Right.
Now people cannot efficiently create merchandise if they wanted to. Just, hey, I know I don't really own the rights here, but if you do, I'm a person who creates shirts. If you want this one, you can
Mhm,
get it. It's not my main products, but if you want my main products, you can get that over here. It's
mhm,
no longer that because now if you make something with Hillman Talk on it, we have to respect the brand.
mhm.
That this
Yeah.
person is not the originator for this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's to say, like, it's not all the times like that's like a bad thing from like a
Hmm.
protection and legal and things that we tend to talk about with corporate aspects. It's not to say like it's innately bad, but it takes away from, like you say, from the community and from the culture. Like it stops
Hmm.
being about the culture now. You know,
Hmm.
and again, I understand the reason, I understand a lot of times the reasons for it because like culture is not one of those things that you can control or that you
Hmm.
can kind of rein in. It's kind of like those kind of things, they take on a life of its own. And, it can spread like wildfire and, like you can't contain, and, you can't
Hmm.
contain that. But I don't know. It's just like when that situation happened with Versus, how you're talking about the human talk, and now it's like kind of like with Pop the Balloon, it takes away the community and the culture of it. It's kind of
Hmm.
like it takes away that inside joke. It's like, okay, yeah, I can watch Pop the Balloon and be like, this is like some absurd mess, like this, and that. It's like I can dog the show, but it's still
Hmm.
mine though. Like, but now because now it's on a platform like Netflix, now it's like open up for like masses, which it always was, but now it becomes about the masses and it's not like you just don't feel like it's yours anymore,
Hmm.
so
Yeah. Um, Side tangent within this conversation, because when you brought up verses, I was like, oh, why does this moment that we're living in
mhm,
um feel so familiar? But when you said
mhm,
verses, I recognize that's why, because black people, we forever doing this.
Yeah.
When like when it was COVID time, we recognized, well, we're gonna have to be inside anyways. But
Hmm.
while being inside, let's find joy.
Exactly.
And that's what we did to really make it through a lot of what we're dealing with. We didn't forget about the stuff that's going on outside, but we
Hmm.
allowed ourselves that safe space to just be in joy. And here we are today in this year of 2025. I don't know if I can say the Lord's year of 2025, but it's somebody's year. Still trying to figure that out. but, but here we are doing line dances. We're aware of everything that's going on outside, but we're finding moments of joy. Yeah, when you said that, I was just like, that's why this feels so familiar because
Hmm.
it's only been 4 years since we've been there. Well, five. And because I remember saying just thinking back to it, even though it was a very sad time, I also was like, you know what? I was appreciative of the COVID times and I forgot why.
Hmm.
And this was the reminder of what made the COVID times beautiful because we were a community. We were, sticking together in that we were finding moments to embrace and enjoy us. And here
Yeah.
we are in 2025 doing the
Exactly.
exact same thing. And I love it
Exactly.
for
Yeah,
us.
and that's such a great point to bring up. A lot of times when we talk about like the things from COVID, of course, the horribleness definitely overshadows a lot.
Yes.
But you're right. We don't talk a lot of times about like the beauty that came out of COVID. Like I say, no matter if you like the like versus didn't tune into it or whatever, like the fact that we were creating something, that, like kind of stemmed and, it took on, like a form of its own. It's like that just goes to show like the magic and the power in us,
Mhm.
and so if we just use that, more authentically, like, because to me, I'm like, the main gripe I've always had with reality television in general, I'm just like, you don't need to create archetypes to do reality television. If you are creating a reality TV with five strong, individuals, you're automatically gonna have drama. Like the drama creates itself. Like, so a lot of times when these shows are trying to sell the drama or they're trying to amplify the drama aspect just to tune in, it's kind of like, me as a viewer, it's like, yeah, I like drama, I like to see drama, but that's not all that I want to see.
Mhm.
I actually want to see real story. I want to see actually people finding love. I want to see people acting differently. Like some of the same things that I found to be funny, like even for instance, if we go all the way back to like something like the Bad Girls Club. Like, yeah, when I was watching Bad Girls Club in like high school and stuff like that, like, yeah, that to me at the time, like it was entertaining, it was funny. I can't wait to see like who gonna beat up who and who gonna get into a
Mhm.
confrontation with who. And but it's like now, like when you tune, like I don't tune into Zeus Network or anything, but like what they tried to do with like the baddies aspect and things like that, I do not want to watch nearly 35, 40-year-old women fighting. Like I
Okay.
don't I don't want to, like, I've gotten older, and so it's like my mind and my mentality, yeah, of course, I like to see a little drama. Of course I do. But it's like that's not what I don't want to see like these grown ass women fighting. Like, what are we doing here? And like I said, you don't even need that. If you had these women coming back after so many years, and if the show was actually about, yeah, you're following them being on a grind, or they're trying to come together for a project and things like that. You have very bold personalities. You have people who got history of not liking each other and things like that. You don't have to incite drama for it to be
Mhm.
natural. The drama is already going to be there. Just let it unfold. So I'm just like, I can't.
It would be beautiful if they just allow reality to really be reality.
Yeah, to
But
really be reality.
and I think when it comes to the people who like the producers, I think they realize that if they actually do that, one, it will be better than what they actually have, and it will also remove the the amount of control that they have in the scenarios. And I think that lack of control is the thing that really worries, I guess, the show writers, which usually is just a producer anyways, but um, it worries them of like
Mhm.
job security. And it's
Yeah.
like, what about job longevity? Like you can still keep the same people on, pay them or whatever, but the show is so much better. It's a
Mhm.
lot more natural, and it's fun. And I will say for anybody out there who's thinking about a reality TV show, you don't want your show to be a show that's on my trash list because when I indulge in trash,
Mhm.
it's because it's trash. It's really not something that needs to be consumed by any other person. Like could have been love. It's trash. I enjoyed it.
And then what a lot of people are also having to reconcile, even for people who are older than us who started out in reality television.
Hmm.
Now, when you get to the point of having kids and grandkids, it's like, yeah, do you really want to see mommy and daddy like back 20 years ago fighting on national television? It's like that's something that a lot of people have now had to say, like, yeah, my daughter or my son or whoever, yeah, I'm kind of keeping those videos like hidden from them as long as I can because like
Hmm.
when your children see you acting a plum fool on television on national television, it's like what in the hell? Like
Hmm.
you should be embarrassed.
And this is when you start having those conversations. This is why we don't do crack.
Mhm.
Even though that may not be the reason, but give them something. This is
And now
why.
you have to retool those moments and be like, hey, this is a learning lesson about hopefully what not to do. But I can only imagine, like, and I'm not saying that, like, you don't live and you learn. Of
Hmm.
course, this is not to shame people to say, like, oh, yeah, like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have done that in the moment, but you need to be ashamed of yourself.
Hmm.
Because again, we live and we learn. If you were a person that you used to be a very hot temper person and this, and that, and you got into an argument or you got into a fight on national television, all right, fine, it happened or whatever. But we've come now into a time where it's like, okay, we've been with reality television for quite a minute now. We should not be repeating the same patterns over and over again,
Hmm.
you
It
know?
was something new. Something new, Lord. But yeah, when you said the people in their 35s and up on these shows fighting, for why? For why? You are auntie and uncle ages.
Yeah, it's like really, people. This what we doing, and and that whole vibrato about like, oh well, I can't let so and so talk to me like that because like that messes with my image, or I ain't trying to look like
Hmm.
no weak punk bitch, and like all this type stuff. I'm like, but the fact that you care,
Hmm.
that's really the conversation. Because I'm like,
Listen,
if you supposed to be a boss, you supposed to be on your grind. Why the hell you care about what so and so saying about you?
don't let me have a recurring $1 million coming into my bank account. Don't let me be that person because you have any.
Mm,
You think I care? I will buy your
I can
house. Keep playing with me.
like I
I
cannot.
will do
Like
that.
one of my
Like
favorite
what?
like not favorite TV characters, but I can always remember this line of this TV character who said one time, she's like, for all y'all little get rich quick young people, it's like y'all make $100,000 and feel like y'all didn't did something. And you know how she said, it's not until you earn $100 million in net worth that you even deserve to breathe the same air as I do.
Ooh, and I.
So it's like, why are you concerned about some random having comments about you? Just because you don't want your name, just because it's like, keep my name out your mouth. And it's like, well, clearly, if you want to talk about me, I must be important to you.
Okay.
But it's like, why are you upset about
Listen, give me the tea.
it?
Like, you're in my business. Why? I barely want to be in my business half the time.
Exactly.
Like,
I cannot. I cannot.
oh God, yeah, that was a nice little random ass tangent. But pop the balloon. Any more that you have that you need to get off your chest about that or any other topic?
No, I think that's cool for me. Like I say, I just really hope that hopefully maybe because I probably won't be tuning in. I'll probably like tune into like some comments, or whatever. But I
Mhm.
just hope that they can just get on a maybe a good path. Maybe they'll take some feedback and maybe retool for if they get a season two or something, just to like do something different. Like do something different.
Yeah.
Less
So
gimmick, more gays, less noise, more nuance.
did you just say more gays?
More, well, I meant gays as in
Oh,
GAZE.
I
But yeah,
was
more.
like,
But yeah, but hey, gays work too. That
I
works too.
support.
Both
Uh,
have the support. Yes.
Look, so long as the originators continue to get their coin, do y'all, and I would love to see a Korean version because look, I know they be appropriating over there, but Korea be doing it right. I hate to say it. In the same way, like when it comes to black people in Japanese culture and cosplay, we be doing it right.
Ooh,
Because I just be like, hold
yes.
on. See, this
No,
is
if y'all know, I live,
love it.
like me and Vernon, we both, have resided in Georgia. And let me tell you, last time I was downtown at one of the like the malls, and they had just had like the cosplay convention, some convention that was in town. Baby, black people, we show out at that cosplay event. I would, and for every because I was in the food court at the time. I was like, every outfit that was coming through, I'm like, yes, you better do
Man,
it. You better do it. I loved it.
I love it for us.
I love it.
These cultures, like, we're so lit over here.
Yeah. And like I said, and this one, no, like to me, us in cosplay is so much of a step above like what you would consider like Halloween, like little costumes and stuff.
hmm
Like, no, this was like people dripped out to a T.
Like, I know an appropriating culture hates to see black people come to appropriate anything because we will upgrade. Like, I don't know if you've seen the yarn makeup trend that was
Mm,
going
yeah.
on. Now
Hmm.
that was started by a white woman. Shout out to her because I saw the original work that she did and it was phenomenal. And
Mm,
I don't want anybody to think that she did not do her thing because she did her thing. Okay.
mm.
Now, black people see a trend and just like, oh, this is cute. And
Yeah.
then just put a little bit of stank in that, little
Yeah.
elbow grease, and I'm just like, y'all need to sit down. Y'all black people, sit down. This white woman came on here to give us this gift, and y'all just making it immaculate. Sit down. How dare y'all? But I'm going to continue to
Yeah.
scroll on this and just enjoy it all
And
because
look, in
the
life,
yarn
life.
hair double like share send to somebody because we are giving. We are giving. Love this for us.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Any last words before we close this show out?
No, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Melanin and, and Moonlight. Oh God.
Oh, don't be throwing out the wrong title here.
Okay, let me restart that. Thank you for tuning in to Melanin and Moonlight, your late night space for deep, thought-provoking conversations about sex, culture, and the well-being of the Black community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep the vibes flowing and your minds open. Bye, y'all.
Bye.